She never cherished you. Truthfully, she never even felt that way. What she required was your certainty that she did. Does that sting? Good discomfort is the one instructor that never distorts reality. Take a long, unflinching look at your reflection. Do you notice that considerate man? The one who greets her with compliments before the day has even begun, who steps aside to open doors, who speaks with politeness. To her, that man is not merely unseen. He is predictable. And in the hidden code of attraction, predictability is the slow death of desire. Every woman carries a shadow written into her very biology. Even she is not fully aware of its existence. That hidden force pushes her away from the man who worships her and draws her toward the one who could take her or leave her. Do you understand why women claim to want tenderness, yet so often end up tethered to the one who stirs their tears? It is not self-punishment. It is nature's selection. For countless generations, the women who endured were the ones who bound themselves to the warrior rather than the poet, the one who hunted rather than the dreamer, the man who could shield her with his strength rather than the one who would crumble in sacrifice. That ancient program still runs silently in the background of her instincts today. You imagine love as shared words, mutual understanding, and constant kindness. She may agree in conversation, but her body reacts differently. It stirs for the man who presents a challenge, who stands unshaken, who does not orbit his life around her. Have you not noticed the sparkle in her eyes when she recalls the ex who treated her coldly? Or the shift in her voice when she mentions the self-absorbed superior everyone secretly dislikes? That is not leftover trauma. It is raw desire in motion. The figure she longs for is not necessarily cruel or violent. His allure lies in the fact that he cannot be boxed in or subdued. He lives beyond her grasp. You, in contrast, are a book with every page read and memorized. She can forecast your every gesture and sentence. You offer safety, steadiness, everything she claims she's looking for. And precisely for that reason, her instincts recoil. The philosopher Schopenhauer saw love as nature's trick to keep the species alive. But the truth is sharper. Love is a battleground, and in that fight, the overly civilized man always falls first. When she says she wants a deep connection, she is searching for sensation, not merely thoughts, intensity, not mere stability. And the most potent feelings are born not from comfort, but from uncertainty and carefully contained risk. The man she is magnetized to is the one who leaves her guessing. Does he still care? Will he reach out? Is he elsewhere with someone else? That emotional pendulum is more intoxicating than anything brewed in a laboratory. And you, with your constant reassurance, your immediate replies, your unconditional devotion, are a dull sedative when she is seeking a dangerous high. History repeats itself in whispers. Napoleon swept across empires but could not command Josephine's loyalty because his need for her outweighed her need for him. Letters of longing crossed from battlefields while she entertained others in Paris. The most powerful ruler on earth was reduced to an emotional petitioner. Sound familiar? Of course it does. You have been the man on your knees, offering a feast of attention to someone who serves banquets to those who never ask. The figure she cannot resist is driven by a hunger that no woman can satisfy. A hunger for ambition, for purpose, for dominion over his own life. That thirst is what unsettles her, because she can never be its sole answer. Women are not consciously cruel. They are survival strategists guided by instincts older than language. That is why they seek the man whose focus is precious because it is scarce. When your attention is endless, it is worthless. Attraction obeys the same law as the marketplace. Abundance kills value. Think back to childhood. Remember the toy you could not have? How it consumed your imagination. And then remember how quickly you cast it aside once it was in your possession. That is what you have become. A trinket always within reach, predictable, easy to ignore. The one she craves is like the treasure in the locked cabinet, visible yet untouchable. Thomas Hobbes claimed man is a wolf to man. He missed the deeper point. Man is a lamb to woman when he forgets the wolf that lives inside him. You wonder why your bond with her faded. It was not simply mistakes you made. It was the absence of what once made you compelling. You stopped being unpredictable, not physically dangerous, but a force of nature whose direction could not be charted. Instead, you became part of the scenery. Safe, functional, unremarkable. The man she fantasizes about has three qualities that either slipped away from you or never took root. First, his life revolves around something greater than her. She may be a treasured part of it, but she is not the axis. His existence has a central mission, a pursuit so consuming that she must fight to earn her place beside it. Second, he can refuse her. When did you last decline something she wanted, not out of spite, but because your priorities demanded it? The man she aches for says no without hesitation, and in doing so, awakens a fascination she cannot explain. Third, he retains emotional enigma. You spill your inner world at her feet as though urgency demands it. He, on the other hand, keeps depths she can only guess at. This is not calculated aloofness, but a natural discipline over his emotions. You are all action, leaving no mystery behind. He has contained potential, power on the edge of release. And that tension is the electricity that keeps her hooked. She cannot help herself. She stares at her phone, wondering if he will answer, wondering what occupies him. It is not that he surpasses you in worth. It is that he understands, consciously or otherwise, that attraction is fed by tension, not by constant satisfaction. You dissolve that tension instantly with rapid replies, with total accessibility. You drown her in abundance, and in her thirst for the rare and precious, she would rather go dry than swim in your ocean. Nietzsche declared that God was dead, but perhaps the greater extinction is the death of the man women instinctively respect. The modern imitation of the alpha, all brawn, no depth, is not the answer. The real man she cannot forget is the one who holds destructive capability yet chooses to create. The restraint itself is the seduction. That is why the fantasy of dangerous men endures, not for brutality, but for the dormant power beneath their gentleness. You have no dormant power left. You smothered it years ago in your quest to be endlessly agreeable, endlessly available, endlessly safe. And with it, the scent of vitality vanished from you. Women detect weakness without conscious thought, not from malice, but from instinct. They cannot gamble their future on a man who cannot even defend his own essence. And today, the threats are not wild beasts or marauders. The predators are conformity, purposelessness, spiritual decay. The man she dreams about shields himself from those fates with the ferocity of someone defending his very life. Watch how women respond to men absorbed in their craft or driven toward a personal conquest. They may grumble about his absence, yet they remain, because they know leaving him would mean losing the rare privilege of standing beside a man whose world does not orbit them. You gave her your entire world, and in doing so, revealed that your world was small enough to fit in her palm. She could crush it at any time, and knowing this stripped it of value. The man she pursues offers her not ownership of a kingdom, but the thrill of an endless campaign. Territory always expanding, challenges always ahead. Biology's laws are merciless. They do not bend for romance. And yet, you have built your entire belief on cultural illusions about what women claim to want. They speak of equality, but long for the man they must look up to. They speak of openness, but crave a man whose emotions do not flood their every interaction. They say they want a friend, yet they already have those. They want from you what no friend can provide. What they truly want is the polarity, the magnetic pull between masculine and feminine. And you have dulled it into neutrality. You became neither strong enough to command respect nor soft enough to evoke deep nurture. You entered the lifeless space where nothing sparks. The man she dreams of is current, dangerous to hold, yet impossible to resist. Women throw out challenges not because they are malicious, but because they are measuring you, prodding the edges of your strength, searching for signs you still have a spine. They ignite small fires, stir needless quarrels, test limits, all to gauge whether you stand firm or fold. You, in your desperation for harmony, yield each time. You try to soothe, explain, rationalize, and with every surrender, something in her interest withers. The man she cannot turn away from does not shrink under pressure. He doesn't meet every provocation with open combat. But when he decides to stand his ground, nothing moves him. His presence alone signals that retreat is not his default. Imagine two scenes. In the first, she throws sharp words over nothing. You try to pacify her, to find resolution. The quarrel drags. You surrender in the hope of ending it. She turns away in bed, untouched, unmoved. In the second, she lashes out. He glances at her, half amused, then returns to his work. She follows him, still heated, still pressing. Without a word, he catches her by the waist, draws her close, and silences her lips with his. The storm breaks. Not because he overpowered her physically, but because he answered chaos with composure and certainty. That is the currency of desire. Unshakable self-command. She does not truly want to win these exchanges. She wants to feel that if conflict came, the man beside her could weather it without crumbling. She wants to sense that his strength is not a performance, but an instinct. The darkest truth of feminine longing is not submission itself. It is the choice to submit to someone worthy of it. And you have never been that choice, because your dominance is skin deep. An imitation learned from hollow advice. The man who captivates her is not performing control. He governs himself first. His impulses, his fears, his dependence on external praise, all are under his leash. From that mastery, influence over others flows without effort. You, on the other hand, cannot resist checking her online activity every hour, cannot stop yourself from seeking reassurance, cannot go a day without her affirmation. The order of power in any relationship is decided by need. The one who needs less leads. You need her, like lungs need oxygen, and she knows it. The man she pursues could love her deeply and still carry on if she walked away. That is not coldness. It is stability rooted in a life larger than any romance. That kind of man doesn't love from scarcity, terrified of losing his only source of meaning. He loves from abundance, able to give because he is already full. A king can be generous because his coffers are stocked. A beggar clings to every coin because it is all he has. You have been loving like the beggar, grateful for scraps, fearful of emptiness, willing to sell your dignity for another day of affection. The man she craves loves like the king, generous because he can afford to be, selective because he has choices, calm because he knows the world offers more than one woman's embrace. This is not arrogance. It is reality. A man who cultivates himself, who guards his time, who works toward goals beyond the reach of anyone else's approval, will never be short of options. Women sense this without needing to hear it. They compete for his time because it is precious. Meanwhile, you compete for the scraps of attention from someone who has already shifted her desire elsewhere. Nature is unflinching. It rewards strength. It punishes weakness, and the most fatal weakness is not in muscle or money, but in the inability to stand alone. You let your identity be defined by whether or not she wants you. The man she stays up thinking about does not bend his worth to match another's opinion. His sense of value is immune to the fluctuations of someone else's mood. Yours is tied to hers like a balloon to a child's wrist, floating when she is happy, deflated when she withdraws. There was a specific point when the balance tipped. It was the day you stopped leading and began asking permission for everything. Not because you respected her input, but because you were afraid to move without her blessing. You started asking if it was okay instead of stating what you were going to do. You started measuring your happiness by her expressions. Women do not desire a grown man who has become their emotional dependent. They already have sons. They do not need another child to care for. The man who draws her in never asks permission to be himself. He considers, he includes, but his life is his to steer. She can walk beside him or step aside, but she does not get to take the wheel. The killer of long-term attraction is not betrayal or cruelty. It is the monotony of knowing exactly what will happen every time, without fail. You have become a rerun. The same plot, the same lines. A story she has no reason to rewatch. The man she fantasizes about is a series still being written. Unexpected turns, new chapters, growth that makes him harder to predict. Not because he manufactures drama, but because he keeps moving toward greater challenges. You stopped evolving the moment you thought winning her was the final goal. You became lazy, soft, emotionally sedentary, assuming desire was permanent once obtained. Desire is a fire that must be fed, and you let yours burn down to embers. The man she cannot resist is his own source of fuel, burning for something bigger than any single relationship. She warms herself at his fire, but the blaze would rage even if she left. You, in contrast, poured all your heat into her until there was nothing left. And now you both shiver. The most painful truth is that she didn't walk away for someone else. She walked away for the hope of someone else. The vision of another man, real or imagined, was more thrilling than the certainty of you. That should be your wake-up call. The figure she searches for isn't found on dating apps or in casual encounters. He is an ideal, an energy, a living embodiment of movement and vitality. She is seeking a pulse that makes her feel alive. And you have been embalmed in your own neediness. You preserve, you maintain, you survive, but you do not expand, you do not challenge, you do not ignite. The man she wants is life itself, unpredictable, full of risk, unafraid of chaos. Napoleon didn't cross Europe to win women's affection, but women adored him because he was crossing Europe. Ambition aimed at the world is intoxicating. Ambition aimed solely at winning her is suffocating. The man she stays for wants the world, not just her approval. And paradoxically, that is what makes her chase his approval harder. You hunger for her to tell you you're enough, and you never will be. Because enough is not something given. It's something forged. And you forge it in places that have nothing to do with her. When was the last time you stepped into something that frightened you, that demanded your growth, that had no connection to her validation? The man she can't stop thinking about lives at the edge of his comfort zone. Not for thrills, but because he knows stagnation is death. You died in her eyes long before she left. Now you are simply a body moving through habits. That man, the one she dreams of, could fall tomorrow. But he would have lived more in one day than you have in a decade. His presence is intense because he is present, truly present. You blur your days into distraction, scrolling, drinking, speaking without meaning to people who don't matter. And you wonder why she looked elsewhere for meaning. Do you see why the man you envy never has to chase? He is not following a script. He is not counting moves. His magnetism is the natural byproduct of living on his own terms. His time, his energy, his attention. He gives them carefully because he knows they are finite. You scatter yours as though they will never run out. The man she aches for does not live by the rules handed to him. He makes his own, and people, especially women, are drawn into his orbit. A woman would rather be one of several women wanted by a remarkable man than the sole focus of an unremarkable one. That may offend fairness, but desire has never cared about fairness. She responds to power, not the power to control her, but the power to control himself. The ability to say no, to walk away, to be complete without her. You lack all three. That is why she runs faster the more you chase. Why her desire fades the more you love her from weakness. Why her respect dies the moment she knows you cannot survive without her. The man she dreams of doesn't chase. He draws her closer without lifting a finger. He loves boldly, not desperately. He stands ready to lose her, because losing her does not mean losing himself. That knowledge, that freedom, is what ignites her more than anything else. And if you want even a chance at becoming that man, you cannot put him on like a mask. You have to uncover him from the wreckage of who you pretended to be. He has been there all along, buried beneath fear, compromise, and the slow suffocation of trying to please your way into love. Let him out, and you will never again be the man begging for scraps. Keep him buried, and you will remain exactly where you are, safe, predictable, and forgotten.